Welcome to the Watch Society.
It's not even the end of January, but the watch world is back from holiday and they're ready to get going. This week, there was a whole slew of new watches out, but really, it's LVMH Watch Week that stole the show. It's the launching pad for LVMH and all of their brands to bring out new watches and show the world. So let's get started with their most well-known brand, TAG Heuer. Probably the biggest news for TAG Heuer this year is that they're going to be taking over the Formula One sponsorship of the official timekeepers of Formula One. And with that, they brought out the new Formula One chronograph. It's no longer just a quartz line, but now they put an automatic movement inside of it. They're 44 millimeters titanium with aluminum bezel watches, caliber 16 inside of them, which is a modified 7750, a very common chronograph movement, very robust. It's been around for a long time. But with that movement and the larger size titanium case, they've priced them between $4,700 and $4,900 for these new models, which is relatively reasonable for TAG because some of their models have started to become really expensive and push the boundaries. With TAG Heuer becoming that title sponsor of Formula One, I would expect that this is just the first showing that we're going to see from them when it comes to Formula One inspired or co-branded watches. We're probably going to see something throughout the year and multiple races coming out. And for the foreseeable future, this is probably going to be a big focus for the brand. Other news from TAG is they came out with two limited edition themes for the Porsche. They came out with a Porsche themed Carrera that's in steel with 911 made for the Porsche 911, but the real good looking version of this watch, I think, is in gold, but unfortunately, only 11 of those will be made. They'll also be coming out with the purple Carrera, and it's a beautiful looking watch. I love when a brand pushes the boundary of color and brings out something a little more interesting than just a black or silver watch. The other big chronograph brand from LVMH is Zenith. Zenith has a new chronograph Defy Skyline, and it's in black and blue, but the skeleton on these, I'm never sure how well they work. The Defy Skyline, I think, is a really cool case, but I'm not sure they've ever gotten the dial down or it looked just right. But it does have its fans, but probably has a little more detractors. At least it's still getting some love, so hopefully we'll see this line progress to something a little more refined throughout time. But the watch from Zenith that got all the attention was the Chronomaster Sport Rainbow. Rainbows tend to get the attention because they're big, flashy, sparkly, fun watches with a price tag that is eye-popping at $112,100. This is not exactly the watch that most people are ever going to be looking at buying, and is certainly a shot across the bow of the Rolex and their Rainbow Daytona to say that Zenith thinks that with their shared history of chronographs together, that they should be pricing themselves that high. I think it's ambitious. I don't think it's going to have a lot of fans at that price point, but I do think the watch is gorgeous, and if somebody wanted to hand me one, I certainly would wear it every day. Now, everyone's favorite brand to hate from LVMH is Hublot. They certainly are a bit taste specific, but if you like them, you like them. If you don't, you don't. They came out with the new Big Bang Mecha 10, which is a 10-day power reserve manual wind skeletonized movement. I will say that the watches are very Hublot, but the big thing here is that movement actually looks pretty good, and it's finally Hublot putting a movement in a watch that looks like it belongs there and not just a Salida thrown in a Hublot. This one actually looks good. Now, for $20,000, does it look that good? Not really. Hublot also released a new Spirit of Big Bang ceramic collection with 3 different ceramic colors. And these, honestly, I love. I love when Hublot does ceramic. The colors they come out with are really beautiful. I love this light blue. I love the green. These look good. Unfortunately, the usual detraction with Hublot still goes here, where it's a beautiful ceramic watch, but it's going to be over $25,000 for it. That's a hard pill to swallow. Again, I love when Hublot goes ceramic. I think they do a great job of it, but the price point is a little hard to swallow, and I might be saying that too many times here, but it feels like the prices of all of these watches are creeping up more and more, and I'm not sure the audience is there for that. Maybe I'm wrong. Time will tell. Now, going into the smaller production run lines of LVMH, we have Bulgari. The Serpente is getting an update with a new automatic movement in it. In general, the Serpente line looks great. It's unique to Bulgari. And honestly, it's beautiful. No notes. Keep it up. I'm glad this thing's getting made, even if it's a rare sight and hard to pull off. It's a fun watch, and it is something that has been part of Bulgari's lineup since the 60s or the 50s. It's been around a long time, and it still looks good. The resurrection of the Daniel Roth lines continued with a 20-piece edition of the Daniel Roth Extra Plat. It's a beautiful watch done with rose engine guilloche. Looks great. The only downside of this watch, which is a practical one-for-one reproduction of the 1990 watch from Daniel Roth, is that there are only 20 being made, so the chance of seeing one in person is going to be very slim. Now with Tiffany being part of LVMH, Tiffany watches are also part of LVMH Watch Week. And with that, Tiffany released a lot of pretty sparkly diamond watches. If that's your thing, go check them out. But for me, that's all I have to say about that. I'm going to butcher this name, but L'Epee, the watchmaker or clockmaker, actually, from Switzerland, is now part of the LVMH group. And they are known for making everything in-house and creating these beautiful sculptural works of art that are clocks, that are race cars and spaceships and different things. Here they came out with a watch box that is made out of acrylic, and if you press a button, the watch comes up, and it's 12 grand. That's a lot for a watch box in acrylic. If you want it, it's there. It's still one of the least expensive things they've ever made, with the Hodinkee travel clock probably being the least expensive thing they've ever made. It looks pretty. Now, it might be the biggest surprise of LVMH Watch Week is the star of the show was Louis Vuitton Watches. Louis Vuitton is trying to be a respected watchmaker, not just a luxury product maker. And that's worked for some brands. Hermès has done a great job of it. Cartier in the past has become a jewelry maker to a watchmaker, and we all recognize that now. In fact, they're the second biggest watchmaker right now behind Rolex. So you have to give it, to them. If they want to do it, it's been done. And with that, the Tambour leads the way. Now, the new Tambour that was released last year is actually a pretty good looking watch. I've got a chance to see it in person, have it in hand, and I really like it. It looks great on the wrist. So with that, they've continued the Tambour line. First is the Tambour Taiko, named after the Japanese taiko drum. The hours actually spin for what hour it is to be a different color. And it's a beautiful complication with the minute hand spinning around and just the hour spinning. So it's its own version of a jump hour. It looks really cool. It's a nice case. It's the Tambour case, but it's something a little different with these spinning drums like a taiko drum. Honestly, I can't wait to see this in person because it's a fun complication that you haven't really seen before. And I think when a watchmaker is able to do that, they're really putting their best self forward. They have another version that took it too far where the numerals are, instead of being numerals, just say Louis Vuitton all around it. And it's called the Tambour Spin Air because it's suspended over sapphire. And Louis Vuitton, stop it. Stop writing Louis Vuitton everywhere. We know who you are. We get it. When you just try and write it in every single possible spot, it just feels kitschy and cheap. The watch is great. Putting Louis Vuitton all over it, it's classless. Stop it. I do think this line is redeemed when it comes to the world timer, though, because that is a cool looking world timer with 24 different time zones shown, one for each hour, one with the day and one with the night indicator to show that they're in opposite time zones of the world, different 12 hours apart from them. It looks great. It's a different way of doing a world timer, which this day and age, if you can do that kind of complication different, I already applaud you for that because it's been done so many times. Then there's my favorite thing Louis Vuitton came out with, which is the Tambour Convergence. It's a dragging hour watch, a complication that we used to see in the interwar periods of 20s, 30s, and 40s. And Cartier's done it, Hamilton did it, all of these different watchmakers did it, but we really got away from it because to do it, you just have a little hour and a little minute, and just this little bit of time being shown. The rest of the watch is just sitting there staring at you. It's very brutalist. Some call it Art Deco. I think that usually looks very brutalist when you see that, especially the old Cartier version of this. But this shining puck of gold staring back at you is really beautiful, in pictures at least. I don't know how it would work in person if it gets scratched up, but that dragging hours where the discs just rotate the time looks beautiful with this little window. And if you don't like that just flat face of gold, there is a platinum version with 795 diamonds on it. So that at least will take care of the worrying about scratching a flat piece of gold. And lastly, we have the Gerald Genta watch under the LVMH branding. This watch is called the Gentissima Oris. Sure. It's based off a drawing Gerald Genta did in 1994 with a watch that's supposed to look like a sea urchin inspired watch with spikes all over it. This one is a newer version of that watch, which takes it to the extreme with fire opals on it and with a carnelian dial. It's certainly something. It looks actually pretty cool. It's a bit loud and may not be everybody's taste, but if you do like a sea urchin inspired watch, let's move away from LVMH. And Ming released their new dive watch, the Uni, also inspired by a sea urchin with its black DLC coating and orange accents. We did a whole video on it earlier in the week. It's worth checking out. Now moving on to the biggest name to release a watch this past week, Tudor. They had the Flamingo Blue watch, which honestly I think looks pretty cool. It's not Flamingo Blue, it's Tiffany Blue. That's Flamingo, it's pink. I like the pink watch. I think it's really fun color. I think this is a fun color too. I don't know why it got the Flamingo Blue and the pink just got called a pink, but I'm glad they're doing something fun. I hope it's not as hard to find as the pink watch has been, because there aren't a lot of people out there who really love color in their watches, and every time it comes out, it's so hard to find. So kudos for Tudor for coming out with this. I think it looks really good. I just hope it's not that hard to find for people who want to get it. Speaking of really hard to get watches, Greubel Forsey released the Handmade 2. Now, the Handmade 1 has been out for a few years with a very limited production per year because of how many hours of labor it takes to go into it. It's gotten a lot of attention recently because of Mark Zuckerberg wearing it. Apparently he discovered he has money and he can buy watches. Good for him. Now the Handmade 2 is 96% handmade. The sapphire crystal, mainspring, spring bars, most of the jewels in the case gasket are the things that they can't make by hand. Now everything else in the watch is completely made by hand. Even the tools are either used by hand or they're mechanically hand powered. So everything in this watch is literally handmade. That also means it takes 5,000 hours of work to get one done, and only 2 or 3 will be made per year at a price point of 580,000 Swiss francs each. Pocket change for Mark Zuckerberg. For the rest of us, I hope we get to see it, because anything that takes that much level of craftsmanship is something you want to see, and you want to get hands on just to see, does it really show? Does all that craftsmanship show? I hope to see one at one point, but I will say that I'm glad somebody is making a watch as handmade as possible, because I love that craftsmanship like that can still be done, even though the price, unfortunately, because of all the hours of labor, puts it out of the realm for most of us. With LVMH Watch Week, there might have been some watches that got lost in the shuffle. One of them, unfortunately, I think was the Oris 65 60th anniversary dive watch. Oris has been great for the watch community. They've been very active with them, so we are fans of them because of that. And the Diver 65 in general is one of those watches that has a great retro feel and isn't given enough attention, because every time I have one on, I just think of how good it looks, how slim it is, and how much of a strap monster it is. It's really a dive watch that for just over $2,500 is better than anything out there at that price point in terms of style and feel. I love the watch. And the Diver 65 60th anniversary is such a throwback. It is almost an exact copy on the dial of the original one from 1965 with the 60s numerals on it. It says waterproof on it, a term we don't even use anymore because we use water resistant, because it's not really proof, it's water resistant. Shockproof on it. It has all the old font on it. The only real difference is it's a little bit upsized at 40 millimeters, but that's definitely the size most people prefer nowadays. Overall, it's a beautiful watch, and I hope to have that or another Diver 65 in here soon to review and really get into the details of it. And finally, there are 2 watch brands that released watches yesterday. First was Christopher Ward with a new Dune 65. Field watch came out with a bunch of different colors on it. It has a wave pattern that looks like a windswept sand dune. It's a cool looking field watch, and for starting at under $900 with a Sellita movement in it, if you're looking for a field watch, this has to be on your list. If you like the styling of it, it's a great choice. They also came out with the Dune GMT. It's a GMT style field watch, so it doesn't have the GMT bezel on it, but does have the second GMT hand on it. Works well, looks cool, and just a share over $1,100 for, again, a Sellita powered GMT. If you like the look of it, solid choice. And the last and least on the list is the Blancpain Swatch 50 Fathoms Pink Sea. I like a pink watch. I'm wearing a pink watch. I'm glad when brands don't shrink it and pink it, which means taking the larger size watch, making it small, and throwing a quartz movement in it. This is the same Blancpain Swatch that's 42 millimeters like all the others they've made. Has the same System 51 in it, but the pink is bright. The pink is like brighter than Barbie pink white. It's a bit fuchsia almost. Not all shades of pink work. Not sure this one works. I think one of the comments in the watch chat was, if you're going to make a toy, at least they made it look like a toy. I have nothing better to say than that. Well, that's it for the Watch News recap this week. If there are any other watches that came out that I missed, please let me know in the comments, and have a good weekend.